First thing on the agenda. We start with the review of the fiscal year, right? Is that correct? Is that what we're starting?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the very first one, which is
Okay.
public hearing only.
Public hearing and review of the fiscal year 2024-2025 expenditure budget revision number 2. Marcy, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Ramirez, members of the board. So this evening, I want to just share with you, we have revised budget. If I can get that PowerPoint here. So the process for our budget review is we propose a budget in June. We adopt it in the end of June, 1st of July. But those are just estimates of what we think where we'll be. Okay, so because ADM, our attendance, is on current year funding cycle, we don't always know at the beginning of the year when we adopt our budget what our ADM is going to be. Coming in, me being new this year, we had some transition in that process, and honestly, we were very conservative in our projection for ADM. So you'll see some of that tonight. So what the statute allows us to do is to revise. So come May, we pretty much know what our attendance, our ADM enrollment, our average daily membership will be. We know what our carryover is from the prior year. So in June and July, we haven't always spent down all of our money. There might be some open purchase orders out there that we weren't going to spend. And so you kind of guesstimate what you think you're going to have for carry forward, but we actually ended up with a significant carry forward in M&O. With the district additional assistance, and this, as one of the board members pointed out to me today, some places it says district additional assistance, some places it says unrestricted capital, some places it says capital outlay. They are all the same thing. I would love for all of the forms that we use to have consistent language on it. So that's something we can work towards. And then classroom site fund. So carryover in classroom site fund, that's used for teacher performance pay and additional pay for teachers. So here's what this looks like. So I want to just give you an idea of what we're revising to, why we're revising, what the changes were from the adopted budget. So what you're looking at here is an M&O revenue control limit, and that's really that number that is the average daily membership times the base level support that we receive from the state of Arizona in our formula. And you see that carryover, you see we estimated 16 million, we actually carried over 29, which is a significant difference. But what you see down below is we're transferring some of that M&O into capital. We have large capital projects going on right now, a lot of construction projects that are going to cost the district some significant money. So we're transferring that M&O. And let me just kind of give you an idea of why I'm transferring that amount of M&O into our capital budget. So we want to maintain a reserve in our M&O budget. The budget really doesn't give you any kind of clue what the reserve will be. Where you see that reserve or that carryover, same kind of term, is you'll see it when the annual financial report, the AFR, comes to you October 15th. Because what that tells you is what you actually spent this year. So if we have a budget of 66 million, and I'm projecting we're going to spend about 55 million, we'll carry over about 11 million. That's a nice, comfortable carryover to make us in a safe place to have enough reserve in case anything was to happen. So one of the things that you've heard me talk about a lot is I want to make sure that we are keeping at least 2 to 3 months of operating costs in our M&O. That's just to keep us in a good place in case anything crazy was to happen, state was deciding to cut budgets, or God forbid, student enrollment would drop, those kind of things. You always want that reserve there. You don't quite need 29 million. Which is why I'm transferring over into the capital. Because we do know we have some significant capital investments that we want to make in the organization. So then we talk about the unrestricted capital or DAA, same thing. But we had transferred at the adopted time only 5 million. And now you're seeing the 29, okay? And that difference between the two is 30 million. And that is primarily due to the increase in the carryover that we had for the M&O, but then a little bit of increase in our additional district assistant, the additional assistants, the DAA, because of the increase in enrollment that we had from a prior year adjustment. So this is where we are. That item is going to be under actions and further on in the agenda tonight. So having presented that information, I want to thank you all for your attention and entertain any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So the rules for the reserve accounts, is that typical 2 to 3 months, or is that just something that we came up with?
Well, that is kind of a standard across government financial organizations. When you look at best practices, that's recommended in the best practices.
So it's a recommendation as a
Mhm.
best practice.
That's correct. And so one of the things that I encourage us to do is to adopt a reserve policy. That's one of the things that I want to look at and see, and I have actually asked Ms. Mays to look at that for us, see what language we should be bringing to the board for adopting a policy. So then it's not your CFO is giving you that recommendation, but it's actually you as a board deciding what you're comfortable with in that reserve fund.
And yeah, I talked to Kathy Smays this afternoon too, and talked about, especially with the old Auditor General from the previous superintendent, where there was so much in reserves, that makes this look like nothing. You know, that we do need to adopt a reserve policy, and that's why I want to get together you guys to write something up.
Go ahead, Frank.
On the adopted budget column, is that based on budget revision 1 because it was adopted back in December?
No, it was based on the one in July.
Then how does this, where is budget revision 1 play into this?
Oh, that was the December?
Yes.
Yes, so we did have to revise in December. The reason we had to revise in December was because our ADM had fallen short of the initial 85,000 that we had projected.
8,500.
I'm sorry. 8,500, thank you, Dr. Spurgeon. So the 8,500 ADM that we had originally adopted. And that was just due to, and you know, I've been in front of you and you've seen reports about how that getting the member districts ADM to ADE and getting it validated, we had some hiccups this year. They were reporting directly, and a couple of our districts had some difficulty with their student management systems. But now it's been corrected. We're back up. Our ADM looks great. Our member districts have done a fantastic job of getting all of the students reported.
And the other question would be the $3.8 million 9th grade funding. I didn't think we got 9th grade funding.
So we receive, so the way the 9th grade funding works is we receive it and then we just give it all back to the member districts. Because we don't do any 9th grade education here at our sites. It's all done at the member districts' home schools.
Right. But do we get, does ADM pay for 9th grade? I didn't think they did.
Well, there's some stipulations and some requirements that they have to meet, like they have, if they were enrolled in the 9th grade in a CTE program on their local campuses, and those students continued to receive CTE instruction through a junior then they go back and they retro pay the ninth grade, but they have to be consistent and be participating in a program in. Yes,
Make it as complicated.
well, yes,
Yeah,
that's
It's
true.
on the board.
40th day too. Junior year, 40th day.
Is the 3 month reserve, is it listed on here? Is that the care?
No,
Okay,
It's not. And you're not gonna see that. This is my projection again of what I feel our expenditures are where they're gonna end up this year. You know, so if we end up at about 55 million and we carry over about 11 million, I think that will put us in a good place.
How much would you estimate 2 to 3 months?
Well, we've probably about 4 to 5 million a month.
so it'd be a fourth, basically, of the budget.
Yeah, if we were gonna do 3 months, it would be 25% of the budget, but I'm more leaning towards the 2 months. Just until we can get some practices in place and some policy in place, but it still leaves us with a nice reserve. And again, I may be, you know, the expenditures as I'm looking at them right now in May. Again, I've got a lot of requisitions and purchase orders open. Some of those might close and those expenditures again might go down. And we're carrying more than 11 million, maybe we're carrying 15, 16.
How do we keep that money in place for all of our projects? And not apply it towards reserves, or is there no way around that?
Well, the money will be sitting in the bank in an account. It's sitting out there and the budget capacity is sitting in the accounting system. And it won't be touched until we apply an expenditure towards it. So way I keep it safe, it's coded to a way to where I know that that's additional money set aside for special projects.
I was just thinking more for public transparency, you know, so that they could see, they would know what that money is there for. Instead of just having, you know, if we're trying to plan like 10 to 15 million dollars in our reserves. And we're planning on spending $80 million like within the next 6 months. Would that still be all sitting together in that pile?
Well, you would see it in and the reports that I give to the governing board. You know, because you see those budget balance reports that I give to you, that's included in the voucher information. So you see what that reserve is or the additional budget capacity was setting out there. And it's just having these conversations and in our public meetings and sharing information with you about what our projects and what our plans are.
And then those are also brought before the board and the board votes on them. We approve them. Or we approve the expenditures for our construction and stuff like that.
And that's, I think my only other question would be, it seems like our repairs and maintenance budget is blown through, is there something driving that? Or do you have any additional information on that you can share?
Other than, you know, our buildings are starting to age. You know, and we've got some maintenance that we're doing to our buildings that need to be taken care of, which part of what you'll have on the agenda later on this evening is the call for a bond. And part of the projects for the bonds, we're asking to have some of that money set aside to repair and improve and upgrade some of our existing campuses.
That's smart.
For the purpose of developing a policy. What would you recommend in terms of going back number of years to develop a track record of what our reserve should be? And we can say that based on this year, it should be 11, 12 million dollars. But if we look at it over a number of years, what would you recommend that number of
Well,
years?
we could go back, but the challenge with that is that we've been growing exponentially the last few years. So it would be hard to look historical what's happened just because of where we are today. I would feel much more confident in projecting where we're going forward, you know, and looking at it from that perspective.
But there is a way to take a look historically to see where we were and how much we grew and how much the expenditures grew. You can have a somewhat of a clear idea about that, but because we're growing, that number is a moving target. but we can get close.
That'd be a great chart to have if we can get that. Obviously,
That would be an easy
Our-
chart to produce.
growth versus expenditures.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the other things that I think we'd have to take a look at is what are our construction costs and maintenance costs 3, 4, 5 years ago versus today.
So that'd be more
It's not really
specific.
not apples to apples comparison, because you've got to take those things into consideration.
So should we do a maintenance cost graph that shows just the maintenance costs of all of our expenditures?
That might,
I would agree with that. I'd almost like to see like this building. I think this building is
How much is
more cost maintenance than some of the others. Do we need to accelerate the thought of a new central administration building versus, you know, if. But I'd have to see, I think we have
The
to see
numbers.
the graphs
Yeah.
and know what's appropriate.
There way we can do that, maybe on a future.
Yeah, we break it down by building and then an overall.
Or
Yeah,
even by campus would
By
be helpful.
campus.
Yeah, by campus art.
yeah. Be fairly simple.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah, you know, I like
is
data.
there anything else? That's
Scott could
okay,
hire me.
all right, thanks, Marcy.
Thanks, Marcy.
Then do we
You have to call the public.
have the call to the
Oh,
public?
yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone in the public who would like to comment? On the revised budget report? Calling once. I have to call it 3 times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone interested in speaking on the report? Second time, third time, okay. We'll conclude that section then of the public hearing. All right, so. Move on to regular meeting. Is that Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, yes. Trying to find my spot here, where are we? Is that section C?
Yes.
No, C2, there we go.
Yeah.
Found it. Okay, yeah, but do we have someone coming up to start the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stay up there. Hey, stay up for a second. Thank you. Yes.
I don't know if everybody got a chance to meet Ms. Megan Mills. She's our newest cabinet member, as our new assistant superintendent coming in. We stole her from Agua Fria, so welcome her to the team. So welcome, Megan.
Welcome. Excellent. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second.
Sorry, who?
Ed motion. And then I think I heard Frank second.
Yeah, Frank beat me. I think.
By a quarter of a second.
Yeah.
Ninja hand.
gonna start repeating.
Salad button.
Okay.
Join the meeting yet. You guys.
It's a lock deal out.
You see Linda in there?
Oh, it showed up. I voted, so I guess I
Did it.
Click on that item.
Oh, you have the
Sometimes
item?
you have to click on the item and it will.
Shows that she sees you in the meeting, Linda.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Are you on C2? C3, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
C3.
Well, I vote aye. So how do I get? Read the meeting.
Do that.
Now that honey,
You know, they stop. So, it's like eating it.
right now.
That is.
Onions.
You.
We'll get everyone's vote.
Was this? Well, you need to log back in for this time.
It's got an issue.
The new guy.
That was you with that. You know what?
Yes.
On the other. If you like.
Back then, we didn't have this system, we just
Yeah.
said, hey, you're
So
on.
I'm saying you need an automated system of. Right, with that.
Also while we're here.
To joy. Nice and nice.
See this.
Did everybody?
Can we just do a verbal, so we can, move on to the next agenda item?
Computer stuff here. All right, so maybe here, computer signed it. Perfect. Terry, can you give him a verbal? This is ready for you.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
So you are signed in now, so. Yeah, it's good. What's your name? Good job.
All right, motion passes. Okay, so moving on, summary of spring events. Yeah, so, Superintendent.
Thank you, Chairman Ramirez. Got a lot of things on the agenda coming up, so I'll probably go through this fairly quickly. Since last time we met, I just want to talk about a few of these, but we had our spring superintendent institutional advisory committee meeting, which was held at Canyon View High School. And the Agua Fria School District got a chance to grab some feedback on potential projects for West-MEC. Got a chance to hear Nate Shulman from Agua Fria talk about the tremendous performance of their students at their new career academy model in Agua Fria. So that was a great opportunity for us to get some feedback and have great conversations around West-MEC. We had our West-MEC Alliance 2-for-1 fundraiser at main event where folks come together and bowl and have a great time there. It's very well attended. Just finished up doing the year-end recap video filming. I typically do several of those a year, and then at the end of the year, I do one that kind of finishes up to congratulate everyone, wish everybody a great summer and great success as they leave West-MEC and move on to bigger and better things. Tours, was able to visit Vista Verde. We're still in conversation with Jason Reynolds, their interim superintendent, about a potential West-MEC site there. I've got opportunities hopefully next week to sit down with him, his CFO, and maybe one of his facility folks to get that conversation started, to look at what the potential is behind Vista Verde. I had the chance to visit with Glendale Economic Development Team and did a tour with our central campus. I got a chance to see our aviation maintenance, several programs there. And again, they're looking for ways in which they can continue to have conversations with new employees or potential companies coming in about the value that West-MEC brings to the West Valley. Chamber events, had the opportunity for the first time to meet with Rhonda Carlson, president of the Peoria Chamber. Got a chance to visit with her, give her kind of a West-MEC update overview, talk about the great things happening in Peoria and how we can collaborate and work together as West-MEC and Peoria come together at some potential sites in the north and also at the site at 101 in Peoria Avenue. Some other meetings, had a chance to go to Natterburg. We had an educational pathways planning discussion with Mountainside High School, BNSF Railroad, Wickenburg High School about a potential site there in the northwest section to see how that would play and the type of workforce necessary for the expansion that's going on in the northwest side of our region. Had an introductory meeting with Mayor Sarter, the city of Surprise, talking about their work and their economic development and our work at West-MEC and how we partner in so many ways to make this a great partnership. We got together with NASCAR like we do each year to debrief about our 2 sessions, about our students' experiences, their work-based learning, and how we continue to make that an even better series moving on. The one thing that will change is Phoenix did will not have the championship series. It will now be rotating around, so there'll be different sites, but they will have 2 races every single year that our students can participate in. So kind of some exciting news there. Just yesterday, was that yesterday? Monday or Tuesday? The Westmark. Yesterday. Several of us attended the West-MEC Economic Development Summit, and they allowed, I believe it was 8 cities to about 10 minutes to get up and talk about some of the great things happening. And it will just blow you away. I mean, several cities could have gotten up there and put 15 or 20 slides and went through all the great things that are happening, but they did that kind of as a teaser to just show everyone in the audience about the great things that are happening in the West Valley. This is quickly becoming one of the most sought after pieces of real estate probably in the country, if not around the world. So we're very excited about that. One of the things that I want to mention that's probably as exciting as it gets is we had the opportunity to visit with a company. And the thought began in our C&I department and our student services department about how we could work on giving students that are bilingual credit for that bilingual opportunity to be able to put on top of their resume or present it as a part of their career piece as they apply for jobs. And so we, at the Northwest campus, we actually did a pilot study with 8 of our students to take the assessments, and 6 of our 8 students passed that, and they now have received their seal of biliteracy, which is a certification that they can take with them along with the certifications they get at West-MEC, which I think is fantastic. So there'll be others that will be coming along with that. The Spanish is where we're going to start. Pilot went fantastic, and that's one more way for us to give students at West-MEC one leg up, one top of the stack of the resumes that are presented. So very excited about that work. Next is we have lots of things coming up, May 22nd, and I'm sure Sherry will probably get this out to you, but just as a reminder, May 22nd, we have Central Campus recognition ceremonies. 11 o'clock will be precision machining or manufacturing and welding. 1 o'clock drone technology and law public safety. 3 o'clock will be a coding. May 23rd, it'll be another fantastic project search graduation, which you'll hear from Shelley here in just a little bit about some phenomenal numbers that project is producing on a yearly basis. May 30th, we have our West-MEC recognition ceremonies, and the one change this year is we actually had to split Southwest to 2 meetings or 2 promotion ceremonies because it's just too big for everybody to get there. So 9 o'clock is Northeast Campus, 11:30 Northwest Campus, 2 o'clock Southwest Part 1, and 4:30 Southwest Part 2. And then June the 12th, Central Campus recognition ceremony for Central Campus for aviation will be at 2 p.m. And the reason they hold that later, because as you know, they have to complete a certain number of hours. They go into mid-June before they're done. And if you try to graduate them or promote them early, sometimes they choose not to come back
They go
and
back.
finish those programs. So, and then the last thing I want to mention is, I'm not sure if Rassam Bartet has sent this out. You know, every year we have summer camps. So I'll make sure that he sends that out if you haven't already gotten that, but that's typically right this year will be June 3rd and 4th or 3rd, 4th, and 5th at our campuses for 8th grade students. And it lists just a number of our programs where 8th grade students can come in and kind of get that first teaser, that first taste of some of the great things that we offer at West-MEC. So that being said, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Swartz. All right, now an opportunity for the governing board to share a brief summary of any current events they want to mention to the board. We can start with Mr. Steins.
I went out to Northeast campuses to talk to the instructor about why we didn't send him out to
Germany.
and in Germany, it's only $1,600. Showed me the all the equipment they have is pretty phenomenal. I mean, we've got a real class act out there. And I kind of regretted my negative vote, but that would have been a vote for one, but I would have changed that. I thought that would have probably been a good expenditure of our funds. Since they were willing to pay for almost everything. But he had a good attitude about it.
Hopefully we'll do that. One of the only opportunity he'll have. Mr. Miller, he does a phenomenal job. In fact, several of us around here know what kind of a job he does because I've had my own car there to get it fixed too. So does great work.
Awesome.
It's really pretty phenomenal equipment that we have there. It's first class. We just
Thanks. Ed, nothing? Okay. Ms. Bosom?
Yes, I went to the West-MEC Summit yesterday as well, and it was pretty amazing, all the things that are happening in the West Valley. And you know, with all the growth and stuff like that, it really looks like the entertainment and the service industry is growing like crazy. You know, West-MEC just, we can't help but probably double in size with all the things that are coming. You know, so we really have just such a wonderful opportunity. I'm also working with Rashawn and the Washington Elementary School District. I was at one of their school board meetings, I believe it was last Thursday, and talked to one of the board members there. And she asked if they could get their students at one of our career campuses. And when I looked online, I was appalled. I was like, oh my God, they're already gone. They're full. So Rashawn was able to free up like 20 spaces and stuff like that. So now we just have the superintendent is gonna try and see if they can get because this is the last week of school. So if they can get that message out to the parents and stuff like that, maybe we'll have some spots for those kids. So.
It's good news. Well,
I went out to the Southwest campus. Just listening to those kids talk,
Yeah.
the fact that they get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to compete with China.
oh my
I
gosh.
loved it. It's just the robots, that whole program out there is just phenomenal. The other thing is I try to recruit customers for aesthetics in this Northwest campus. And I had a couple of the pickleball ladies come up to me the last couple of days. Next year, I am bringing way more because we went there. I took 5 people one day. I took 4 people and they love it. So it's a great thing to be close to Sun City West because they've got time to do that.
Down the hill.
It's awesome. Mr. Straka?
I don't have anything.
No, Mr. Garcia?
So I had the very rare opportunity to, I was in Hawaii on a personal trip. And I got to step into our program that we have out there. We have an aviation program that's tied to one of the centers and got to review it, look at it and hear the stories about it. The main, one of the training facilities that they're gonna have is gonna be tied into the memorial, to the Pearl Harbor Memorial site. So they got some really good vision and visibility, and hopefully the guy's Rojo, the guy that was walking me around was really good. Explained it all, but I was really excited to see and hear and then look at the competition, because there's a couple of other training sites in that area, but they're not near as good as something we're gonna put together, so they're very excited.
Never is.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right. I'm moving on to call to the public. Do we have any public comments? No one? Anyone in the public now interested in making comment? No, okay. All right, we'll move on to the next section. Recognitions and celebrations. What do we have coming up for that? Should be
Dr. Carson should be first.
Parsons.
Good evening, Board Superintendent. I didn't quite hear that we had moved to my portion of the agenda, so thank you for allowing me to step up here. I get the honor tonight of presenting one of my teachers. He received an award from the Water Service Commission. And it's trying to find the name of it again. Mr. Judd, do you remember the name?
Arizona Water Association.
All right, come on. I mean, he is the awardee, so. So this is actually a pretty cool story, because this award generally only goes to post-secondary instructors, people who are out there trying to do the work of growing the water industry and people making sure that we have people moving into it. I think the last statistic I heard, the average age of a water treatment personnel is about 57 to 60 years old, meaning that what he does is very, very critical. And that we're just not meeting the demand in post-secondary. So they chose to provide him with the award. He was sponsored by EPCOR, and they paid for him and his students to go out to the conference and receive this. But they also were really kind of cute on the side. They reached out to me and they were like, We want to come in and serve this award to him in front of his students without him knowing. So it was kind of a cool thing, but with that, Mr. Judge, you're doing amazing things and keep doing it.
Well, thank you. I just want to say the award is less about my teaching ability. You know, I'm doing this. This is my first full year. This is more about the partnerships and the culture of West-MEC. You know, Dr. Parsons has been fantastic with the resources he's given me and helping me reach out to the kids and actually teach them. But the industry has just been fantastic, coming in, giving us resources, bringing in guest speakers, bringing whole teams of people, and recognizing what we're doing, helping support us, get the students certified and out to industry. As Dr. Parsons said, everybody's retiring out. Nobody knows there's a great pipeline of jobs that exist in the water industry because frankly, they do too good of a job. So they're never in the news, so you don't know that they're out there. And so we're trying to help that. We got a lot of people excited about it, and that's really what the award is about. It's about what West-MEC is doing together as a group. Thank you.
Jobs that
Yeah.
the kids actually get.
Yeah, so the biggest thing they can do is they can leave here with a grade 1 water treatment operator certification, which allows them to work at the city of Surprise, the city of Buckeye, at the big water treatment plants. You know, these treatment plants are, these days, they're $50 to $100 million to build. And so you have to be certified through the EPA, and the EPA delegate to the state. So you have to be certified through the state to work there. There's a bunch of different types of jobs. You've got your water treatment guys, which are chemistry. You've got your wastewater guys, which are microbiology. And then you have all the mechanical stuff that goes in between, from the pipes, the motors, the pumps, and all that stuff. So there really is a big world. On top of that, you have all the regulations, the engineering that goes into it, and the legal and the law part of it. So some of my students will move on to go into environmental engineering or environmental law. Some of these guys will go straight to work as water operators, making about $50,000 to $60,000 a year.
So it's mostly municipalities that they go to.
And utilities, like your Epcors and your Liberty Utilities, places like that, SRP, APS, they have uses for them also. In fact, tomorrow morning, students are all piling on a bus. We're gonna have to Palo Verde Nuclear Plant to look at the water treatment. They're trying to hire 5 operators, but the only criteria is that they have a high school diploma. So, and they need water treatment. So I've got the perfect batch for them. I've got a bunch of high school graduates that have a year of water experience, and some of them are already certified. So we're hoping to slide some of them into those jobs.
Is that program filled?
Oh, not at all. No, in fact, I've got 6 students in my afternoon class. Big thank you to Dr. Spurgeon for letting the class go forward. It's paying off because we've got about 15 signed up for next year for the afternoon, and about 15 in the morning. So it's growing. We had 12 last year. We had about 20 this year. We're looking at about 30 this upcoming year. So we're growing the program.
Okay, so do you think this is something that we can look forward, maybe seeing the new southeast campus?
Oh, I'd love to. So the goal is, right now it's a 1-year program. We've got some challenges making a 2-year program. It's illegal for students to sit for the certification exam. So that's tough to work through. I'd love to see it be a 2-year program. I'd love to see it at other campuses, but first I've got to grow mine out and get some more success out of it. But that's the goal.
One of the things that we talked about, the West-MEC economic development plan and all the growth that's going on and all that. Well, part of that is none of that's gonna happen until you have your 100-year water
Well, that's why I was-
certification.
Sure.
And this is a huge step in making sure that that takes place, because
That's
if
why
you
I
don't
wanna-
have a way to reclaim a lot of this water.
I went to a Maricopa County meeting this week, last week, whatever, and that's what they were talking about. And I have not dug wells myself, but I know quite a bit about well drilling and replacing the water and the 100-year guarantee of water and then you got the CAP. I find out that the people that get the water off of the CAP, everybody has to prove that 100-year supply for development, except the renters.
Well, and so, I mean, I can talk about this for hours. My other job is city council, so I spend a lot of time with water policy. So really, the only people that approve a 100-year water supply are new housing developments that have more than 5 lots. So if you buy a 5-acre piece.
Except
so-
rentals.
And industry.
Oh,
And
industry.
so Red Bull, for example, came in, they tried to come in surprise, they end up not. They're using, 1 to 3 million gallons of water a day, and they're able to mine it. Mining it means you're not replenishing it.
You mentioned Burlington Northern, they've got a similar issue where they're trying to mine water. So water's a big issue and people love their water. People love the water workers. When they find out you work in water, they have lots of questions for you.
I got a question about that, actually, jobs, the students that go through the program also, can they also find jobs like at Intel, you know how they manage water? I don't know about TSMC, Red Bull, so there are jobs also, besides municipalities, they can also.
Yeah, so your Intels, your TSMCs, they need ultra pure water. So you
Oh.
need water operators that are able to do that. They need the engineers to design the systems, but they also need the water operators that know how to troubleshoot and figure out why what the engineer designed isn't
Yeah.
doing what they designed it to do. And that's where the operators come in.
They also
A lot of
have
opportunities outside.
So the piping systems, what's these are moving liquids, so they ask me on the tours about distribution when they see our flow loop and we talk about the water program, so
Yeah.
Chris isn't always privy to that conversation, but they do talk a lot about distribution, and that's almost everybody we tour.
And then when they're done with their water and it heads back to the water treatment plant, water treatment plants are picky about what you send. It's water
Yeah.
treatment is biology. So if you send a bunch of bad stuff down there, it kills the biology. So a lot of times they'll pre-treat their water. They need operators that can
Oh.
pre-treat the water so that it meets standards to go with the system to be finished by the municipality.
Excellent.
So it's a huge industry. There's so many places to
Come
go.
out and take your clothes.
You really should, or come out, we'll give you a tour. If you come out after the year's partway through, I make my students, come, they tell you all the stuff they've been learning and I kind of listen in to see what they've been picking up on and what they haven't.
I really, because they know I'm talking to Debbie Lesko.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They'll be out there too.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Well,
Thanks.
All right, thank you guys very
thank
much.
you.
We have one more, right? I'll even need it. There we go.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm excited to have Brady Mitchell up here to recognize all the awards that you see listed there. So to kind of summarize the awards, on April 11th, we got an email from Michelle Martinez. And I'm gonna read it real quick. I'm absolutely thrilled to congratulate you, Brady, for being the Skills USA Arizona 2025 Advisor of the Year. The business representative who scored the Advisor of the Year application was very impressed with your experience, credentials, and especially how you are integrating Skills USA into your current classroom and chapter. I know from personal experience working with you that you exemplify the mission of Skills USA and have high standards for yourself and your students. But wait, there's more. After the Advisor of the Year applications in Arizona were scored, I was able to forward the top scoring application to the Skills USA National Office for consideration of Region 5 Advisor of the Year consideration. I'm equally thrilled to congratulate you for being chosen as the Skills USA Region 5 Advisor of the Year. This further exemplifies how outstanding you are. I know from my experience of the last few years working with National Skills USA that regional and national advisors of the year are truly the best of the best. So congratulations again for all your hard work in earning this. A week later, we get an email from the executive director for Skills USA. Congratulations. Your chapter will be receiving the gold level chapter of distinction next week at a state leadership conference. Typically, we don't share this information ahead of time, as you know, but I have just found out that your chapter has also been selected as the National Models of Excellence chapter this year. So this recognition is an elite group of 24 Skills USA chapters from across the nation. Brady and his chapter will have the opportunity at Nationals to win the Chapter of Excellence Award in Technical Skills, which there's 3 different categories in the technical skills chapters. I think there's only 8 that go to the national level. So he's one of 8 in that area. So, Brady Mitchell. Yeah, questions for all of his awards?
Very humbled for all this over the last year. Yeah, very humbling and get to go to nationals. I have a student that is attending national competition for an automotive competition, but then I will also be competing, I guess, for advisor of the year for the nation for skills, and as well having students come with us to do the models of excellence where they have to do presentations and trying to earn that top model of excellence for the nation. So really cool opportunity.
Yeah.
How do students react to you receiving those awards?
Yeah, they were clapping and cheering and hooting and hollering. So yeah, pretty humble guy. It's not about me, it's about them. But it's yeah, they were excited.
What is some of the work that was recognized from these awards?
So for advisor of the year, there's, you know, it's like an application, right? You gotta fill out a bunch of applications. And really in that, it's not just my certifications and my years of experience. It's truly how am I implementing the skills framework? And so there's 3 pillars of the triangle of the skills framework, which is technical skills grounded in academics, there's personal skills, and there's workplace skills. And so it's what we call the soft skills. Arizona has our professional skills on top of our technical skills that we have to teach.
Yeah.
And so following the skills framework is a avenue for us to implement those professional skills that are mandated by ADE.
Yeah.
There's a lot of states out there that don't really have that. And so skills gives you that avenue to embed your technical skills granted in academics, your personal skills, and your workplace skills. So the application that we had to put in, we had to give an example of how did we implement that technical skill through our gold chapter of distinction application. And the one we chose was our job shadow activity, where students had to go out and complete a 10-hour job shadow where they implemented their technical skills that they've had to learn in the program in a real world setting, where the students had to go out and get the paperwork filled out, all the legality things, and they had to go to that workplace and sit there and work with mentoring technicians to showcase and utilize the technical skills that they've used in our program. And we had some surveys that the technicians had to give on how well did they do, and you know, it turns out that they know what they're doing, and by that activity, students got jobs out of that. So yeah, it's so that's really what they had, and the students had to fill out the application and send that off, and that was the one that got models of excellence. So now the students have to go to nationals and articulate that to some judges. So
When's nationals?
when last week of June, so June 22nd through 26th, something like that. It's the very last full week of June.
Thank you. Thanks. One more, Dan Hester. Who's presenting? Dan Hester. That is.
Chairman Ramirez, it is my pleasure to nominate Darren Sobey as our May Employee of the Month. I think all of you have had a chance to work with him. He's been at West-MEC the longest from anyone in the IT team. During transitions, wherever we need him to. And he's just always that voice of reason or that other perspective that we often need in our department. So we couldn't do it without Darren's, and it's my honor to nominate him this award.
Board members, Dr. Spurgeon. My name is Darren. I've been with the district for about 10 years. I've learned a lot while I've been here. I've seen a lot of growth from West-MEC. And we've put together larger teams in all the departments and put together campuses that came out of a plot of dirt. And IT's been involved a little bit there, not nearly as much as maintenance. And then the teachers and the administrators, of course, are managing and running those large institutions. But it's been great to see West-MEC grow. It's a pleasure to work for a company that you can believe in what they produce. And we produce skilled workers that are ready for a labor force. When I wear my embroidered shirt and somebody sees me at Walmart, at Discount Tire, wherever, a lot of people will say something. They're like, "Oh, you work at West-MEC. You're a teacher." I'm not a teacher, but I do get to be in part of the team. And what West-MEC stands for is superb in the West Valley. Thank you.
It's awesome. Thank you. Thanks. He gets a picture.
No, he gets that.
Oh.
Every gets a partnership. You get a friendship, you get a friendship.
You get two.
Thank you. Yes.
Now, we're gonna have you. Hold this. Step down real quick. No, sorry. Bad teaching.
Okay.
Just a little bit more.
The West-MEC out there.
Yeah.
Always gotta represent.
Here you go.
All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Darren. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. Here comes goes, but lately it's more than.
Y'all bunched up that.
I know.
What car?
Okay. Yeah. All right. All done with okay, update on project search. Miss Shelley Thorne.
Chairman Ramirez, members of the board, and Dr. Spurgeon, we are so excited today to be able to give you an update on Project Search. For those I haven't been able to spend much time with yet, I'm Shelley Tom, Director of Exceptional Student Services, and I have the unbelievable pleasure and joy each day to be able to work with our staff and our students over at Project Search. You'll get to meet some more as we go, but we had a couple of staff members that were able to join us tonight and want to introduce our team. So we have Mindy Cook, who's our instructor at Luke Air Force Base site. Doug King, who's our employment skills trainer at the site too. And then Colleen McClune, who's our instructor at Renaissance. And you're going to hear from our instructors a little bit more with some of their alumni, which is the star of the show. Absolutely. And then staff members that weren't able to be with us tonight are also Lantasha Matheny, who is one of our employment skills trainers over at Renaissance, as is Leslie, who's our part-time skills trainer there. So we have a team of 5 that do unbelievable work that you're going to see about today. So Project Search is an amazing program, if I do say so myself. It's an international program that we are so fortunate to be part of. And really they distilled down what we do into 6 wonderful words to kind of be our mission, which is to get trained, learn skills, and gain employment. So we're working with individuals with disabilities. In the West-MEC model, it's for those that have already finished high school that are in our program. It's an adult model. And the whole goal is to work with those individuals with disabilities that have a barrier to employment and to train them in job readiness skills, professionalism, and transferable skills so that they can complete our program in just 1 year and go out and work in the community and be in competitive integrated employment. So our goal of Project Search is that they're working side by side with the rest of the community in different businesses in their community and making changes in that community by their being part of that. It also is changing the lives of that individual student and their family when we soon get to the employment rates, and you'll see how much we're making a difference in their lives. Really, the program is business driven, and it's a transition from school to work. We are completely in a host site of a business. They don't come to a West-MEC campus and have class time and work in our labs. Instead, their lab is Glendale Renaissance Hotel or Luke Air Force Base. They spend just a bit of time with us in the morning doing a morning meeting where during that time we follow a curriculum from Project Search. And in that, they're learning financial literacy, self-advocacy, professionalism, conflict management, interpersonal skills, and much, much, much more that we work on throughout the year. And we're very careful to plan how our curriculum looks, that we don't teach financial literacy in August and forget about it. It's something that they're doing every week, and we're building skills. So before they get to the end of the school year, they can definitely tell you what FICA is and why it's coming out of their paycheck. And that you don't really earn $20 an hour by the time you get your check at the end, and being careful about in-app purchases and credit cards and the dangers of those and different things of that. They can speak to all of those things while still being able to tell you what they can do in their job and do it better than most people they're working side by side with. And a key part of that is the strong partnership we have with our businesses to do that. Luke Air Force Base, we had a few of you that got to come out and tour with us last year, and we'd be welcome to take anyone else on a tour as well. It's a mini city, and we're working in several different businesses, anywhere from doing marketing. And we have posters that our interns have created that are posted all over the base, to working in the fitness center and much, much more. And at the Renaissance Hotel and Hospitality, they do it all. They're doing front of the house, behind the house, they're doing event setup, they were working in the salon, HR, they're everywhere. And so being completely in that host business and being 6.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, learning side by side with people that are employed there, they're gaining skills that go beyond what we could possibly teach in a classroom. They're being able to resolve problems that may come up, having creative solutions, and learning how to advocate for themselves in a job site. And we're very fortunate that those marketable skills are transferable and the employment is amazing. But we couldn't do without our amazing partners that dedicate mentors in each one of our rotations to making sure they have that go-to person to work through those with, and our staff that you met and those that couldn't be here, that break down any task into a strategy that they can still do the same work as other employees. They just have a different strategy for getting to the mall, is kind of how we say it. Really, our whole focus, as you might have imagined, is really on employment. We want to make that change in their life and give them that opportunity to be part of employment. As you've probably experienced employment in your world, it becomes part of your self-identity. It's who you are. It builds your confidence. It makes you part of the community that you're in. Sense of growth. You really develop amazing relationships with people that were once co-workers who become friends. And really, more than anything, we're building economic independence. If our interns are solely depending upon Social Security disability income, that's living below the poverty line. So when we can help them gain skills and go get employment, they're making at least minimum wage or whatever prevailing wage is in that job. And then they're making a difference in the work setting that they're in. You're changing the mindsets of people in the community to understand people with disabilities and do it just like anyone else for whatever job comes before them, as long as we've got the skills and training to get there. So we really focus heavily on that. So when we talk about the differences we make in the lives of not only our interns and their families, but in the community, we really have to look at those Arizona employment outcomes and see the differences there. So this is from a 2023 report, and it's amazing when you look at it that in Maricopa County, pardon me, let me start with Arizona. In Arizona, people without disabilities, the median employment rate is 76%. Maricopa County is a little bit higher at 78%. But when you look in the same populations and you look at individuals with disabilities, that number drops dramatically. We're only 34.6% across the state. Maricopa County again comes up a little bit higher with about 44.6% of individuals with disabilities having employment. That's startling when you look at that difference and what that means for an entire family. Then you come to Project Search and that changes. West-MEC supports Project Search so fully and gives us the skills and the support we need that our staff can do incredible things with our interns in partnership with their families and in our partner with Voc Rehab. Voc Rehab is an amazing part of what we do. For this last school year, 23-24, we follow our interns for 9 months after and get a huge data report. So in February, so 9 months after they finished our program, 81.25% of our interns were still employed, making at least minimum wage in an integrated setting, working with people with or without disabilities, non-seasonal. Project Search has a goal of having at least 16 hours a week. We feel that any employment is meaningful. Oftentimes we fall at 15 hours a week for our interns because a lot of jobs amazingly give 3 5-hour shifts. They don't give 1 more hour just to say that's Project Search National's goal, but we do great things and we hit over 81% for this last year. Annually, from year to year, when we look at some ups and downs in that, we've had at least 72% of our interns that are employed 9 months later. So if you go back a slide and look at even at our lower rates, we are far above by almost 30% even the county has for employment rates. And then when you look at when this last year, we're talking over 40% difference. So really, what we can do for individuals and our community to understand how people with disabilities can impact our community, impact our economy is life-changing. It is. And such a great segue because I know that me introducing the program and talking about it is exciting. but that's not the star of the show. Really, what you're gonna hear in just a moment is from our instructors introducing one of their past alumni, who's going to tell you their experience and what they're doing in their employment now and how Project Search was a piece of that. So I'd like to ask Mindy Cook and May to please come up front and speak to your experience with Project Search.
Evening, thank you. I am so excited to introduce May to all of you. She was part of our 22-23 cohort out at Sandmar. And oh gosh, May showed up every day, diligently took notes during every professional meeting, looking to improve both professional skills, and then went out in the warehouse and worked every day to improve her personal best with her quotas that she was tracking daily. And well, from here, I'll have her share. Go ahead, May.
Good afternoon, Chairman Ramirez, members of the board and Superintendent Stewart. My name is May Williamson Schilling. I was a Project Search intern for the 2023-2022 program year. My internship was at San Marie Clothing Distribution Center. During my internship, I learned how to do several jobs. The first was order picking, which is to fill the orders, then restock, which is to put the product in the correct bins on these shelves. Next was AirRes, which was to audit the orders that go out to the customers. Finally, I learned cart build, which gets the carts ready with boxes for our restockers. My internship also taught me how to do interviews and how to ask questions to find a solution to a problem. It helped me feel prepared for employment. Being an intern helped me because the assistant general manager and the HR human resource manager saw how hard I worked. I was hired on May of 2023 as a cart builder. I am in charge of building out carts for the restockers so they can put our product away. I use a one-way frequency radio to get high priorities, which are priorities that need to go out immediately. And I'm in charge of one door. I reached my daily goal. One day I built 41 carts in 3 hours, and the expectation was 10. I received a raise my first year. My goal is to work in human resources. I am currently going to school at EMCC, Australia Mountain Community College, to get my associate's degree. As a benefit for being an employee, Sandmar is paying for my schooling. Then my plan is to enroll to Penn State World Campus online to earn my bachelor's degree in human resources. Sandmar will pay for that too. Thank you.
Wow.
Congratulations.
As you can see, amazing things that May is doing with support of her team. Did you have any questions for May?
I just wanna say congratulations, and you know what, work ethic is everything.
Everything.
You, so.
Congratulations.
I can't see you when you were there. I watched you in action.
It's hard to keep up with her though, wasn't it?
That said something else.
That's why you wear tennis shoes when you go visit, all over the place to keep up with her.
You still have that.
I know, can't keep up with you though. You're too fast for us. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So we want to make sure you get to hear from both of our locations. So now our instructor from Renaissance Hotel, Holly McClune, will be coming up with Cole, who's one of our alumni from the hotel that will be speaking to his experiences.
Hey, how's it going, you guys?
Hi.
All right, good afternoon, Chairman Ramirez, members of the board, and Superintendent Spurgeon. My name is Cole Vandenberg, and I was at Project Search. I was a Project Search intern for the 2023-2024 program year. My internship was at the Renaissance Hotel in Glendale. Then during my internship, I learned several jobs. The first one was Kava, which is our coffee shop, retail store, like at the Renaissance Hotel. And I learned how to make a variety of drinks, do the stock inventory, customer service skills. Next, like rotation, I was a busser there. And I cleared and reset the tables in the restaurant. And did tray runs, which is going up and doing room service, grabbing all the dirty dishes and glasses. From all 10 floors. And then I swept and mopped and kept the restaurant clean. Lastly, my last rotation was engineering department. And I changed air filters in all 320 guest rooms, changed light bulbs, took down cobwebs, cleaning in the garage and outside the spa area. So we just had like a little stick. Yeah, that like went up and just cleaned all the cobwebs in the garage. And then my internship at the Renaissance Hotel also taught me to not please everyone like all the time. It like just means like doing like tons of tasks, like going back and forth if someone asks me to do something. I just can't like please everyone. And I have to be responsible for my tasks and responsibilities first, then I can help others, working very hard during my rotation to show the hotel staff that I could be an awesome employee there. I was hired a year ago in April at the Renaissance Hotel. I've been nominated 3 times for Employee of the Month, have won once. Now that I work here, I have also learned other jobs and tasks. I help bar back at night in the bar, help close Kava, that's the coffee shop for the evening. Bring like the rags, the snacks, help stock for Kava and deliver room service orders like for the restaurant. I am now a full-time employee receiving benefits. I just have my year review and received a 3% increase in my pay. My goal is to continue working at the Renaissance Hotel and grow my career there. Thank you.
Pauline, speak a little bit about Cole as well, and then have any questions you have for Cole.
Cole was so excited to start. I don't want to be like, no, you first. Cole has just been so amazing, and we tell the interns they're on a 9-month, interview. And Cole was a very good example of that and knew what he needed to do when he kind of talked to his he can't say yes to everybody. Cole says yes to everybody, and that was a big challenge for him to come over and learn, right? Responsibility in his job. And then obviously he's been able to learn new things, but that was a big challenge for you previous to coming to Project Search, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's just an awesome, amazing employee. Everybody wants a Cole, hiring for a bar back and they're like, we just need Cole. We don't really need a new person. So we can't multiply him, but we wish we could. So is there any questions for him?
Do a lot.
Which job do you like the best?
That's a really hard question. Like everyone at the hotel, like all the managers and like everyone that's really nice, like everyone there. And I just like willing to do whatever rotation or wherever they want to place me.
But what would you?
That's why they want you.
Yeah, I know. What would you pick as your favorite? Pick one thing. No one's here. to-
Probably,
Yes, from the hotel.
so the restaurant and the coffee shop
Coffee shop.
are like my 2 probably all-time favorites that I had to pick. But I just like it all, like,
Tasting the desserts.
and there you go, that too.
You do a lot of jobs. Have you ever thought about managing a hotel in the future?
Yeah, that would be probably
Yeah.
cool later on.
Yeah.
I'm doing whatever they're feeling.
I love that attitude.
Yeah. It's great.
That's why he's been nominated 3 times.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
There really is no way to follow that other than to invite you to come see this year's class of interns that are completing. So if you didn't have it already, I brought you your save the date for next week's graduation. If you would like to come, we'd love to have you. If you could just let me know ahead of time, I'd like to recognize you being there as part of the support to it. So I appreciate it. It's a recognition ceremony day for West-MEC is one of my absolute favorite days of the year. But going to a Project Search ceremony and seeing the impact on each and every family in the room is hard to beat. Absolutely hard.
The first time that I went, I had some parents come up to me after the graduation. And the father could hardly talk. The mother said, if I had to pick a job for my daughter as an adult, it would have been working in the laundry folding towels. And after going through our program, the daughter was standing there too. They found out that the daughter loves people, loves to cook, and you got her a job in a cafeteria. And the dad was he owned a construction company. And he was almost in tears. He said, "You have no idea how you've changed our lives." It's fantastic.
Our goal is to get them employment in their community. Sometimes they end up staying at the sites where we train at, but that's not an expectation of our site. We want them to work in their community where they want to work and take these skills with them. Sometimes it is a 9-month job interview, as you saw with these individuals, and we're fortunate for that, but it's wherever they want to be in the community. We help them apply. They do interview skills. We help them with resumes and do a lot of follow-up to make sure they're getting those same opportunities. Right. Any other questions you might have for me? No. All right, well, hopefully we see you next Friday. Thank you.
Thank you.
To section G. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented and or amended?
So moved.
So moved. I second. Ed seconds. Call the question. You get logged out? Okay, you can just do a verbal. Is it? All right, motion passes. Move on to action discussion then. Action discussion. First item on the agenda is acceptance of the financial and compliance audit for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Ramirez and members of the board. So one of the action items that we have tonight is just an acceptance. So a lot of times you're approving things, but the statute reads that we present the annual financial report to you with some of the compliance findings, and we ask you to accept it. So that's why I'm here this evening to ask you for that. This week has a roll call vote. So it's a little different than your regular vote. So everybody will go around and individually vote on this. So every year we are required to do an independent financial audit. Our audit firm is Heinfeld and Meach. And they produced this lovely report, which you all have a copy of. You had the electronic version of it in the packet online. So, but for those of you who like to have something in your hands to read, just interesting reading. Lots of numbers, lots of information about the organization. I'm pleased to say that we had minimal findings. Coming in as a new CFO, this work that was done for this financial report was done prior to me coming in. So we know some of the challenges that we had, kind of an absence of a CFO in that prior year. But I was very pleased. The team here did amazing work. And auditors are always going to find opportunities for us to grow. And that's how we look at these audits. So when you have the findings on the compliance questionnaire that was shared with you, you'll see a lot of those things have already been taken care of or implemented, or maybe we missed a date somewhere, you know, it just, but I will assure you that all of the things that we have identified on there are being addressed. They've been brought to the attention of the person who's over that area. And if additional training was required, then we have provided additional training and support to kind of give them guidance. But, you know, we're all human, and there's going to be things that are happening that we just missed it, you know, and we learn from those things, and then we move on, and then we correct them and hopefully minimize the chances of that happening in the future. One of the areas of high opportunity is always in the attendance area. We have so many requirements. There's so many documentations and accounting for all of the days that students are attending and enrolling and making sure all the certificates, all the documents are accurate. I just wanted to say that that is definitely an area that our SIS team, you've heard me talk about Naomi and our SIS team, they put a very comprehensive training together. Because the attendance and the information happens at the sites. Y'all been to our sites. You see the activity that's happening in those offices. So there's a lot of times where they just need some quiet time, or they need some additional training to be able to minimize those things in the future. So I'm very optimistic moving forward that we've put some really good solid processes in place. And next year, when you get the audit presented to you, it will have even less findings.
You got to leave a few findings so that they warrant for their job.
Auditors always find something.
Yeah.
So
That's their
it doesn't
job.
matter what you do, it's like whack-a-mole. You get one and they find something else.
Yeah, sometimes when they don't, they change the question.
Yeah.
So I would,
You know, you said like training, that means everything. Are there anything that we can do in our system and our programs and stuff like that, that we could put in place to alleviate any human errors?
That's a really good question, and we try to. I mean, one of the things that I try to do with our employees is automation, right? And how do we put in efficiencies? Take out I'm gonna write it down on a piece of paper, and then she's gonna touch it and he's gonna touch it. You know, let's touch it one time. Let's, you know, make it as automated as possible. What's really helpful is always also having a review process. So I find that, you know, if one person is doing a particular job, I have somebody else as kind of that backup reviewer to take a look at it and see, or we do internal audits, if you will, right? Where periodically I'm checking, or I have somebody else assigned to check and say, okay, yeah, the process that we've identified, because we can have written processes all day long, right? But if people aren't following them and there's gaps, you know, but we do a lot of self-auditing as well, and I find that helps.
Yeah. Is there any way that we could put like a flag where you can't move any further until, you know, a certain step is done? So that
there may be some areas where we would be able to do that. That will be something that a lot of these things where we want to improve our processes, or have a written process, or have a desk manual, or have something to where we can improve on those kind of things, just what you're saying, is something that I have tasked the business services team to establish as their performance goals for next year.
Oh, nice.
So that we can, you know, build those streamlining and yes, there probably is. I may not have thought of it yet, but I'm sure my team members probably will come up with some of those great ideas.
Awesome.
So I would just say also, we're growing fast. So the accountability from the state's not gonna change. In fact, accountability from the state's it's gonna get more robust. Are we prepared to take on another school campus, a couple more campuses, a couple more thousand more students? Are we prepared to do that without having hitting critical errors or something that is gonna make us look incompetent in any way? I mean, are we prepared for that?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you, Member Garcia. I talk about that with my team all the time. And the efficiencies that we can put in place, we always try to do that, but there is gonna come a time where we probably are gonna have to add additional support staff. And I know in leadership, we've talked about that. What's that trigger? You know, how many schools, how many kids, how many, how do we define when it's time to hire another person who pays the bills? And or another person who works with the student enrollment. So that's something that leadership has taken on.
And one of the things to keep in mind is the work doesn't change, just the workload changes. So once the process is correct, you have the automaticity of doing everything every single day. When those processes are correct, you just have people and train them correctly. But the workload is what changes, and we can manage the workload. We just have to make sure the process is correct, because that's where the errors come in place.
And I would go back to automation, because you can't keep at it, because you grow, you double in size, doesn't mean you double the number of people processing pieces of paper. You have to go back and say, I gotta automate because I can't hire 3 more people. It's just not cost effective. Each person costs $75,000, let's say, plus benefits. 3 people is $225,000. What does it cost to automate? And I'm sure that's the kind of discussions you have, but it would be really helpful for the board to see how those automations are being planned out.
So Ms. Mays, you want to talk just briefly? You've automated 2 systems this year. To talk a little bit about that,
Sure.
just as an example.
We automated the insurance enrollment system, so now employees are enrolled in electronically. We issue our contracts electronically. Anytime we do electronic PARs right now, so Marcy and I developed that with the business team. So instead of shuffling paper up and down the stairs, they just push a button and it goes through the approval process. So we're always looking at ways to be more efficient.
So the application process.
Thank you. The application, that was a big one. So we used to do our applications by paper. And so if an administrator wanted to hire somebody, we had to physically copy the paper, email it to them on their, email all the supporting documentation. Now with this new system, it's all done electronically. They can see the applications. They have all the contact information to set up interviews. They can let us know that they want to hire the person. So, like Dr. Spurgeon said, we're always looking for efficiencies. Our next big project that we're going to take on is the evaluation systems. So I'm working with the CNI team so that we can automate our evaluations. And so that'll save the administrators a lot of time as well.
Right. That's not these, Mr. Struck, your point exactly. It takes human power.
Right.
Or you automate.
We just get AI involved and we'll be fine.
And if you look, the effort to process a check, it costs a certain amount, it probably costs the district $20 to process a check. And so these $8 checks cost us $20 to produce, plus it's costing us $8. How do we automate that to reduce? There should be, and I'm sure you've looked at some of this, would be, what kind of approval process do I need for an $8 check versus a $100,000 check?
It's coming soon. Thank you. So we'd just like to ask the governing board to accept the audit as presented, and also thank the wonderful business services team. And I see some of them in the back of the room right now. I just spotted them, so I would like.
So, do I get a motion to accept?
I'll motion.
And just for clarification, acceptance means we've received the report. We're not approving or rejecting, it's just we're acknowledging that there's a report.
Yeah.
Members, if I may, it needs to be a roll call.
A roll call, okay. We'll go down. Does Sherry call that, or do I call? Sherry can call it. So we don't vote on, yeah.
Yes.
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 Linda?
I'm gonna say yes, and I just wanna say that, I thought pretty much it was a glowing report. You know, there's a few hiccups and stuff like that, but I think you guys did an amazing job.
Yes, they did.
So
Absolutely.
my vote is yes.
Robert?
Stop.
Terry?
Yes.
Motion passes. And then second agenda item.
This was the review agenda, this is the item before, so. So if there's any questions, it could just be, it's just accepting the.
Oh, yeah, the second one. Okay, yeah. Motion to approve the 2024-2025 expenditure budget revision, which is what you presented at the beginning of this.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Ramirez. I'm asking that you approve the revision of the expenditure budget, number 2.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, okay, let's tag team it.
He's did it.
Let's hit this fire. Wow. Okay, call the question. Make sure you're on that agenda item. See, hit the voting window.
I have Marcy introduce the new assistant superintendent for finance.
Yes, please, yes.
So you want to bring?
So with the consent agenda approval this evening, you've approved my replacement. So Mr. French, would you like to come up here and to the board? So this is Ryan French and he will be your new CFO, leaving you in very good hands here.
President Ramirez, members of the governing board, I appreciate this. I'm very honored to be here. I thank the interview committee for the selection. And am looking forward to working with the West-MEC community. So.
Welcome aboard.
West-MEC before you applied for this?
I am. I'm actually a member district. So I'm at the Littleton Elementary School District and we are a member district of West-MEC. So very familiar with the programs that you guys offer.
Sure. With David's retiring, so
He did already. So he retired in December.
he's still hosting retirement celebration.
You must be friends with him on or on LinkedIn.
Facebook.
I understand you're with ASBO too.
I am president-elect of ASBO, so I have another 2-year commitment on the executive board of ASBO. And so very honored to be part of that organization for the last 12 years as well.
Does that mean you'll be able to teach us a few things? You know. I might be knocking at your door.
Looking forward to get to know everybody.
Well,
Thank you.
Ryan, congratulations.
Next one, please. You're up next, too.
All right. Action item number 3.
So this evening, we had a work study session last board meeting talking about calling for a bond election. So you have a couple of resolutions on the agenda this evening. I do have our experts in the room as well. I want to thank Mr. Tim Gill and Brian Lumberg for coming and being available as resources for us if there's any questions that we might have as we go through the process. So I just wanted to read what this is about. So we know that we're growing. We've said this several times here in the meeting this evening. The expansion of the businesses in the West Valley have led us to this place. And what we see is we need to offer more courses and give opportunities to the students in the West Valley. So tonight, we're asking you to consider a resolution to call for a special bond election so that we can ask the voters of our community to approve bonds in the amount of $415 million to do some of these expansion programs that we discussed at the work study.
Jim walk us through the language at all?
Sure, that would be helpful.
We should be able to walk you through a little bit of the language. This may be the first time some of you have seen this kind of
Yeah, I've got
language.
a question too.
Yeah.
Clarification.
So just kind of read through the process of the language.
Have them pull that language up and maybe
Before
easy
you
to walk
start-
through there if you can see it.
Presentation. This would be in November.
Yes.
Right. By statute, this district can only go in November.
What else would be on the ballot? And where does it cover? I mean, it's like there's no mayoral race, there's no presidential race. What's gonna be on the ballot?
Well, first of all, I'm Jim Giel with Gus Rosenfeld. So in this context, this capacity, the district's election council. If the bonds get approved in November, I'll be your bond counsel for that. So good question. This is an off-year election, obviously, but a number of your feeder districts will have either bond or override elections to share the ballot. In certain areas in those respective areas of your district. So those are really the big ones. And I'm aware of probably 5 or 6 of your feeder districts who have already called elections or intend to do so shortly over the next couple of weeks. The deadline to do so is June 9th. That's what you're taking action tonight.
That's probably one of the positive things about going along with others is it's half the cost of running election as it
So
would
it's,
be.
it's all gonna be about bonds. It's a selection.
Overrides, and I don't think there's any
Overrides.
municipal.
Well, it's just, so,
Sales and all that kind of stuff.
right, but from your district's perspective, it's the bond, and then the next item is the site sale election. And other districts are doing site sale elections. I can't think of any. I don't know, there's a few around the valley, probably a couple on the west side as well. So, you'll be sharing the ballot, pretty much everywhere to some degree with another school district.
But it's not gonna be all bonds and overrides and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the off-year elections. There's talk about, some state matters that could be on there, to amend the constitution for various things, so that could be in the
We
ballot.
could put constitutional amendments on there?
Well, I think it's more likely it'll be next year, but I guess it's always possible this year.
Huh.
So, obviously Congress is not on there, at all this year, so we expect it to be a lighter turnout. That's the nature of the off year, the all mail ballot elections. For good or bad, some districts feel it's helpful to be on the off year ballot. Some want to be on the more crowded ballot. Just a different philosophy. You've had good success, either way, so. And so did you want me to review the election resolution?
Yeah.
Okay, so the resolution basically has the board approving, as Marcy mentioned, the $415 million bond election. This is kind of our standard form. This board will delegate to district administration the authority to work with me and the county. The county pretty much runs the election, but at some point, I think actually today, you had your menu of services meeting to review, to break out who's gonna do what in terms of conducting the election. The district has certain responsibilities, my office does, the county does, so we kind of all agree on who's doing what in terms of publishing election notices, drafting the voter information pamphlet, which is my next task if you approve this tonight. The voter information pamphlet, you're approving just the concept of it in the selection resolution. You're also approving the form of the ballot, which is Exhibit A. And you're also approving various election notices. We have to tell the voters that they have until August 8th, which is the county's deadline, but they're making you say it's your deadline as well. For voters to submit pro or con statements. I may have talked about that last time I was here. In this election, since it's a bond election, the board will not be submitting a pro statement as a board. As individuals, you may do so at August 9th deadline. But so just
Unrestricted, so when it's a bond issue, we can have as many as we want.
for bond issues, that you can have as many as you want. Good point. Overrides are limited to 10, bonds unlimited. So, but really first come, first serve. So I think if you get your pro statement in earlier, you're more likely to be at the front of the voter information pamphlet. I don't recall in previous bond elections how many have been submitted for this district. We tend not to see that many. Larger districts like this one, perhaps there'll be, a fair amount. We find that elected officials, not just school board members, but we see legislators, we see mayors, we see economic development folks submitting pro statements. I think that's all good. But of course,
this board is not coordinating that in any manner, but if those folks want to do so, they're free to do so. There was a particular question on the ballot language that wasn't who's ever directing this, can you go down to Exhibit A for me? There's some language that isn't super favorable to this district or any district, but keep going. I'm sorry, I put my computer right on top of them.
Control here as well.
While they're getting there, just to let you know, I'll be out soliciting pro statements. For several cities and mayors and groups and folks and things like that, since it says it's unlimited, so we're gonna come up with some sample letters, so folks have at least a starting place about what you might want to say.
And it's the limit per person is 150 words.
Oh, good.
Yes, 200.
200, I know it's like.
Yeah.
200 words goes really quick. Really quick.
And they do count the words. That's one thing they do by statute. They also, by statute, the county is and some counties do it better than others. I think this county does a pretty fair job of it. They're supposed to be reviewing those pro and con statements for opinions. If you dress something up as an opinion, you can pretty much say anything you want. If you say it's a fact, they potentially could edit it or challenge it in some way. So, but folks have certain ways of getting around that for everything.
Do you have the right to challenge if there's a con statement that you think it's a fact?
Well, there's no official process for that, but I'm not saying you can't. What winds up happening is we don't really get an advanced preview of those.
Yeah.
So
Maybe you knew something I didn't.
Well, they have to be notarized, so that there'll be some that we'll actually be able to put our eyes on. And according to the county folks today, if we recognize something that could be in question, we're supposed to notify them for them to be able to check that out.
Well, and maybe they've revised their process recently. Did they discuss that today? What has been happening typically is the pro-con statements are included in the voter information pamphlet I mentioned. So we drafted with Stiefel and district administration. We have many turns of that document over the next 6 weeks or so. We give it to the county by their deadline. And then what they do is they add on those pro and con statements. We don't see them before then. And then they typically will be on a Thursday or Friday. We'll get the proof of that voter information pamphlet, 20+ pages. We'll be asked to provide comments in 24 to 48 hours. And it's often over July 4th weekend, whatever, but we're all paying attention.
It's exactly what it
They
is.
have till August 8th to submit it, so if we're reviewing it July 4th, it could come in a month after that.
So that'll be the initial proof, but ultimately there will be a proof that gets those pro-con statements on there. But the point is we don't get a lot of time to review it. But if there's something that we find egregious, then we can point that out, and we have done so in the past. And like I said, most of the counties have been fairly receptive of it, but I think the worst stuff doesn't make it to us. I think they do some kind of a job of editing out the stuff that is likely to be untrue.
If they agree with us that particular comment is egregious, do they remove it?
Well, I think they'd work with the author to revise it in some way. It would be, kind of the old facts and circumstances. It would really depend. But there would be some sort of a process, and I think we would have a say to some degree, as I think we're entitled to. Because at the end of the day, the district is paying for that voter information pamphlet. So it's even harder to get your head around the fact that you might be paying for, a page or a half a page for something to be incorrect. So
when can we start? And when, so it ends on August 8th.
August 8th, and then August 8th, okay.
Okay, when can we start?
Oh, yeah, anytime.
So from today or?
Right. Yeah, once the election's called, then it's in play and then in process, and then folks can start submitting pro statements.
And is there any limit on how many pro and con statements?
No, in a bond election, there is no limit.
No limit.
But you only can submit one.
You can only submit one, right?
Per person. But
First name, middle name, last name.
But groups do so as well. Organizations are allowed to do so, separate and apart from what an individual associated with that organization might do. But again, the board can't do it. Yes.
The list of what we can spend the money on, and then go back to that statement that I.
Yeah, so the ballot exhibit A here has our standard 10-point 10 bullet points, again, drawn directly from the statute. So this is not really an attempt at all to customize it for this district. It's just, we're trying to provide you with maximum flexibility in terms of what you can do with the bond proceeds. And voters are accustomed to seeing this since we represent most of the school districts as election council. This is kind of becomes the template that most folks are used to seeing. So, and it's worked well. If anything, folks will want to pull off number 3, purchasing pupil transportation vehicles. We encourage you not to do so. Just because who knows, you might need to do it. And then the other one is the 4th bullet point, acquiring by purchase or lease school lots. A lot of districts such as yourselves are in the mode of selling or leasing surplus property. You might think, well, we won't need to buy property. You never know. So this is locking you in, of assuming the voters approve it, you have up to 10 years to issue any bonds of the 415 million. Not to say you plan to take the 10 years, but if circumstances change, interest rates spike, we go into a recession, maybe in year 8 or 9, a future board is going to be looking at, you know, the 4th bond issue from this 415 million. And they're going to say, well, why did they strike school buses? Why did they take our ability to purchase or lease school lots? So this is kind of the standard list and we really don't deviate from it. Where the voter gets a better sense as to what you plan to do is in the voter information pamphlet. We have a table in the voter information pamphlet that we will work with the district and Steve Fallon on explaining what's intended. Even there, we tend to use fairly generic language because we want to provide as much flexibility as we can. If there is, and many districts have kind of hot button things that need to be addressed in their districts. So we hear a lot about security upgrades. We hear about in some communities, it's really important that the football field be redone. So, you know, we'll lead with that and we'll talk about that in particular. But if we talk about that in the voter information pamphlet, we're kind of tying your hands a bit, you know? So we try to use more generic language. And we've worked through it with this district before and all the others. So you'll see that when we get to the voter information panel. So again, this is mimicking the statute. We're providing you all the flexibility we can. And then the language that the superintendent was asking me about before the meeting is the bottom of the 2nd paragraph. This statement, which isn't necessarily true in your case and isn't true for most districts, but the statute says we have to say it, so I'll just read it. The issuance of these bonds will result in a property tax increase sufficient to pay the annual debt service on the bonds. So it's, I think the part that gets the attention is the tax increase part. In most cases, in many cases, that is just not true. You've got a tax base that's increasing. You've got existing bonds that are maturing. Stiefel has a nice way of layering in these bonds so that your tax rate stays steady because it's all tax rate management. And all the districts do it if they know what they're doing. And it's so we can generally avoid having to say this is a tax increase. Unfortunately, the statute says we have to say it. So we do. But we'll explain it in the voter information pamphlet exactly what's happening. Voters will see an estimated tax rate and they'll see, I think, the column in the pamphlet that shows tax rates ultimately declining as bonds mature and get paid off. So unfortunately, that's not a lot of satisfaction. The real answer is we have to get the statute changed. There's a lot of issues with the statute and they tend not to be on the side of public safety, you know. But you're in the same boat with every other district issuing bonds. They all have to make the same statement.
Ramirez, so let's talk about the example real quick that you and I talked about. They gave Brian gave us 3 different scenarios, one for 10-year, 1 15 and 1 20-year. And when you took a look at the 20-year, it was so close to being able to pay it down by keeping our tax rate at 13 cents, because we're not asking it to be raised. We want to keep it at 13 all the way through. Mr. Strzok and I had a conversation. He had a great idea. Could we do it in 15 or 16 years? So Mr. Lundberg actually put together a chart that keeps our tax rate at 13 cents all the way through, and it pays off in 16 years and saves about $40 million in interest by not having to raise anything at all.
No,
The phenomenal idea was because we were so close within a penny or two in the 20 year that we just said, let's keep it at 13 because it started to drop off at about a year 13 or 14. It went from like 10 cents, 9 cents, 8 cents. We just kept it at 13 all the way down. And if we have a better than expected growth rate in any of those years, it could pay off in 15 years. So if it pays off in 16, we save $40 million in interest. If it pays off in 15 years, it's about $51 million savings in interest, just by simply keeping it 13 all the way straight down, which was a phenomenal idea by Mr. Struggle.
It's just,
Done that forever.
it's just the numbers. And we could do a 10-year bond if we would go to 14 or no, I think a 19 cents. But if we have any, if you look at the district, if we have growth from TSMC that's above normal growth, we would pay off in 15 years or even 14 years.
Yeah.
Really, that's just the reality.
And the only issue we talked about was having to raise the taxes now and then going out to tell the public that, yeah, we just raised your taxes 4 cents in July, but now we're gonna tell you it's a no tax increase bond issue. That just wouldn't sit well with folks. So we don't have to raise them at all. The board can raise this at any point in time, any July you want to. So if you needed to do that 2 or 3 years out from now, you can still do that. But now what we're saying to the public is it's a no tax rate increase. We have the funds to be able to pay this off in a minimum of 16, probably more like 15 or 14.
I did have a discussion with my neighbor. And in all clarity, I live in New River, which is like, they're more frugal, let's put it that way.
And Vogel.
And Vogel, but I said, it's not a tax increase. And he said, so my rate will end as the number of years. And I'm like, no, we're gonna extend it a few years out. Then that's a tax increase because you're extending. I'm like, well, it's semantics. It's the rate is staying the same. And so I think some people in the public, it doesn't matter what you say, it's a tax.
Yeah.
It's semantics.
Well, one of
and
the most
we're
crazy
just-
things this board did 2 years ago, if you remember, Mrs. Straka said, why can't we just take it up a couple of cents? We went from 10,375 and put it at a flat rate 13. We paid off our existing bonds at rate, saved like $22 million in interest already just by simply doing that. So even though it's almost like you pay me now or pay me later, it's better to get those tax rates flat so you can pay it off at a nice flat rate. And then anytime you have excess growth, it pays off even faster.
And it's all about bond or future capacity for future boards. We're paying off quicker, so a board in the future, its hands are not tied because they're saddled with this debt from 20 years ago.
Sorry, Jim, didn't mean to get off my tax.
no, that was-
It was a phenomenal idea.
Those are
to
good
make it happen.
comments. But you're right, it is all semantics and some folks will always think whenever you issue a bond, you're increasing taxes. So it's a tough issue and some folks just don't want to see it your way. I understand it. But they're generally successful. You probably know over the last couple of years in Arizona, school districts have passed bonds at about a 50% rate, which is lower than it was, say 10 years ago. But it's still better than 50%.
That's very, cool. Put the word vocational there.
That's
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
These board members looked at your tax, because I just looked at my tax
Yeah.
bill for West-MEC. I think I pay $53.52 a year for West-MEC.
Look at it, big schools, so they're.
It's the best bang for the buck anywhere in the valley.
Yeah.
What kids do.
So when will this voter information pamphlet actually come out?
Let me pull my calendar up for the county. Yeah, it is sometime in September, I believe.
Yeah, it's September
But everything else, yeah.
12, something like that.
A semantics question, because it's a proposition and not a bond, do we have to have a separate publicity pamphlet or can we ride with everybody else?
Well, you will have your own publicity pamphlet, that'll have your 2 ballot questions in there. Yeah, but
Postage, we have to pay.
But it is still a bond. I mean, it's a school improvement bond is what the statute calls it. But yes, you're right. It'll have the proposition label and I don't recall the numbers.
403 and 406. So Marcia, you want to talk a little bit about the positives of the prop versus it literally saves us the opportunity for some things, so.
So we ask, someone had recommended, maybe you should do a prop to distinguish yourself from the schools. Because I know that I've heard concerns about, well, our member districts are challenged in passing some of their bonds and overrides. So I just happened to ask Mr. Gill here, I said, hey, what do you think the odds are of us getting a proposition? He calls the county says, here's your proposition number. It was that easy. So we feel that that is going to distinguish us. That is going to set us apart from who you typically see proposition numbers for is like city measures. And cities are very popular in passing their bonds. They have a great success rate in on their issues. So we feel that this is a real positive for us. It will separate us. It won't be a school district bond. It's a West-MEC proposition.
We have our pack set up as well. We have co-chairs and now just met yesterday after hours to get that process started, so.
Okay.
I'm sorry, how is
Tell you,
the,
I'm confused.
how is the language different on the pamphlet again? One says prop and the other one says what?
Would say a special bond election.
Just special bond election. Oh, okay.
So ours will say Prop 403, and then the next item on the agenda is the selling of the properties, which is Prop 403, I'm sorry, 406. And so that's how we're going to be able to publicize and share information with our community.
Word.
No, we're not gonna say bond or side sale, we're gonna say proposition. 436. It won't say bond or anything like that.
Well, the information pamphlet that comes out will have the information about what is this proposition? What am I voting for when I vote for this proposition? We will educate them through, as Dr. Spurgeon said, we'll have a pack after, if you approve this evening, then they will be able, in a political action group pack, will be the ones to go out and really share information and advocate for this.
So what I was telling you is, that when I read through this, that's why I was asking Jim, I said, we're not raising tax. So when we have that actual pamphlet, it's gonna allow us to clarify that's a no tax rate. And there's one issue, even though the statute says you have to put it in there.
Yeah.
So it's really more for clarification and more information for the tax, for the voter.
So that sentence needs to go in our approval, but the actual documentation that goes out to the public doesn't have to have that.
We'll clarify our position.
Yeah, so we'll clarify it in the voter information pamphlet. The voter information pamphlet will have the form of the ballot with that offending language in it. It'll be right there as part of it. To answer the question about the voter information pamphlet, it's September 30th is the county's deadline to mail those out. They like to kind of wait a bit, so it's a little bit closer and people are thinking about it closer to November 4th and closer to when they start voting early if they do. So that's kind of strategic on their part, but well before September 30th, the pamphlet will be done. And the county's just kind of biding their time, getting it typeset, all that stuff.
Okay, I have another question. As far as, we're gonna be calling it a proposition instead of a bond and, site sale. How come more school districts don't use that instead?
It's good question. It's kind of creative on the part of the district and your poster. Who will be working with the Mr. Paul Hewlett, will be working with the PAC to market it. So just to be clear, you're not marketing the bonds. You're just, if you approve them tonight, your official role in this election is done as a board. But having said that, you can do what you want personally, privately, not using district resources. But so it was I think a pretty clever idea to do it that way, and maybe it'll catch on. But really that marketing and that proposition is going to be put forth by the PAC. I mean, if the district does official communications that they ask me to review and they want to provide other additional election information in the form of frequently asked questions, things of that nature, that's factual and neutral, and we see that quite a bit, then I would expect we'd use those same proposition numbers, so it's a consistent message. So no problem there.
Who is this PAC?
Megan, you want to step up?
I think, Mr. Ramirez, we're getting kind of off the wording, and only because it's an election item as a point of order, I would say we really need to stick to the agenda. So there's no.
We can answer afterwards.
Well, I'd still like to hear what the PAC is.
The PAC is not part of West-MEC, and we should not be discussing that at an official meeting.
Work as how it's gonna be, the message is gonna be kicked out. You don't think that's important for the board?
What is
That
that?
that is not part of anything official of West-MEC, how the PAC operates.
We're not approving that. We're only approving the bond. So that's
Just a difference.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's not dispositive of this.
But I wanna hear more about the PAC as far as our, we'll do as a future agenda.
Yeah, for agenda, yeah, okay. Any other questions or ready to call the question? If anyone ready to make a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve it. I'm not a lawyer, so I would say, let's take what we have. And I would approve it as presented.
Do I have a
That would be
second?
my.
Sorry, okay.
I just have one clarifying question. And I just want to make sure I understand it correctly in section 1. It talks about our capacity is $439 million. And then it says a debt servicing limit of 437.
You just called the question. If you called the question.
No, I made the
bring it for
motion.
Discussion.
I made the motion.
Right, but you called the question to
I didn't
approve it,
call
it's
for
already
the
gonna be
question.
approved. That's what you
So
just
I
said.
call the question.
So he called the question
the
and he seconded, so we're already voting.
I just wanted clarification on, because it's not clear.
Yeah, we can do after the second.
Do we vote first? Then we give
No.
clarification?
Then we do a second and then open to this.
Alright,
Yeah.
okay.
And then it talks about a $91 million and a $74 million. And so what I interpret that is, if our bond is 415, we don't have capacity to issue all that money this year. We have to wait for it to pace down.
Right, and you're never planning on issuing full amount the first time, but grow into that as your assessed valuation increases. And it-
Okay, that's the way I read it, and I just wanted to make sure I understood that. And then when we pay down that from 91 to 74 million, does that include the $6 million that we've been trying to pay off on our bond from the past couple of years?
So the paying down early and increasing the tax rate is what's paying down the bond. So right.
Yeah, the board voted to pay an extra $6 million of our money to accelerate that.
And I'm gonna work with Brian and Jim on how to, because that means I would have to take current bond proceeds that we have in the bank and use that money to pay down bonds. So there's some logistic questions for that, but yes, we have planned for that to answer your question. Yes.
That was my only question. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, now we can vote.
Any other questions?
Yes, I don't know.
Yes.
Chair, are we voting now? What are we doing? We
Yeah, we're
voting?
voting.
Okay.
We'll vote.
We wanna make sure.
Yeah, you make a motion second, then it's the discussion.
Alright.
But we just start with.
What should be an easy no brainer, it's just the sale of the property, so.
I would make the same motion. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm gonna defer that everything is good and
We on I4?
on I4.
Okay.
Approve the resolution as presented.
Do I have a second? All right. Call the question. Any discussion? No. Okay, all right, we'll call the question.
Mr. Garcia, do you abstain?
I abstained, yes.
I would like to go back.
I'm not going back, we just.
Back to what?
Let's continue our discussion.
I would prefer you leave the room and not vote at all.
Okay, motion passes. Agenda. Agenda items. I think we jumped ahead a little bit too fast, so it's section 4, yeah. So action item 4, you made a motion.
Make it the same motion we approve as presented.
And then ends, do you still want a second? Okay. And then I'll ask again, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, call the question. We have the results. Sure.
I'm done.
Oh, okay, they're not posted, I couldn't see it. There we go. Motion passes, thank you. All right, future agenda items. I want to just re-implement a procedure that past chairmans have implemented with the future agenda items. I like those to start coming through me, like just reach out, send an email, we'll review them, and then we'll decide to move forward, or maybe we answer the question. Okay, just to make it a little bit more efficient also for the administration.
For future agenda items or?
Yeah,
But for any requests, really.
for any requests, yeah.
Can I have some context?
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind?
Yeah.
So, because all the board members know different staff, and what I found last year was happening is, let's say I would ask something of Miss Mays, and then Barbara would ask something of Kathy, or not Kathy is Miss Mays, of Marcy, and and it was a similar request, and so we have two people working on the same thing. So really, any requests of staff, because staff, when it comes from a board member, we're really a private citizen, but because we're a board member, they jump and they want to answer it right away. And so if you direct them to those and Dr. Spurgeon, he can make sure that we don't have two people doing the same thing at the same time. And hey, it's vanilla bean versus plain vanilla, and it's really the same request. How can we? And so that's really the idea behind it.
Yeah, just to avoid redundancy and make things more efficient.
So this isn't really about future, so we have to go through you if I wanna talk to, say, anybody, if I wanna talk to.
Requests for. Yeah, requests for like reports and or things that we want to add on to a future agenda.
Well, if it has nothing to do with an agenda, say if I have a question about,
Well, I always call Dr. Spurgeon's, but.
well, yeah, I
don't call direct.
Marcy, I call, Kathy, have certain things that I wanna know.
See, I usually call them.
I think from
Yeah.
an efficiency standpoint, it makes sense to filter the request for the.
Yeah.
So that it's all kind of, we know what everybody's doing.
Yeah, and I think the difference is.
Staff, because they got other jobs to be doing besides answering our questions. Obviously, they need to answer our questions, but let's consolidate those questions so that the right person is getting the question.
Yeah.
And.
This is more for like in-depth questions that require reports, surveys, inquiries, stuff like that. Something easy like when is project search graduation, or what was mentioned at the meeting, a clarification. I don't see any issue with that. Okay. All right. Anything else? Yeah.
Future
Should we
agenda.
copy anybody else besides you?
Me and Dr. Spurgeon.
Yeah, it's probably me.
Yeah, Dr. Spurgeon and I.
Future
Okay,
agenda items, I'd like to have. Look at the adult education program.
Mhm.
And where we are with those. What's the prognosis for the future of those? Is that something that we can look at?
Yeah.
And is there an update on the transportation stuff?
okay.
That grant is finishing up this year.
Yeah, it is. I'll, yeah.
And we had great results. It would be nice, maybe not an agenda item, but maybe just a summary of, hey, this were the kids we invested in. We had this much retention and we used this much of the grant. Did we use any of the extra money we put aside to get through the year?
Good.
So I still want to hear about the PAC. So I'd like to put that in a future agenda item. Also, I would like the review our bylaws, our board bylaws.
What?
Our board bylaws, we have bylaws. I'd like to see where we're at, but just to review them as a board to make sure that they're relevant. And we're following our own personal rules.
Okay. All right.
If I could just make mention, so remember June, every June we do my evaluation, so we're gonna be sending out my summary of my evaluation, which you fill out, and you'll send them back to Mr. Ramirez and to Sherry. Then remember in June, I think last year, Mrs. Strock, we had a great process where sometime in July or August, you all meet with each individual person to go through the evaluation, which I thought worked well. Just keeps everybody, 7 people from all talking at the same time, so it's just individually, we'll set up meetings after that June meeting after it's done and go through my evaluation if you so choose to. That'll be coming. I made a mistake and I think I approved the wrong form to go out to you today, so 2024, so we're gonna correct that, so that's gonna be coming out to you. If there's questions, add any comments, remember we'll go in closed session, you'll evaluate me on my performance goals. Yes, no, and then we come back out and make a vote, and then from there on, I'll set up meetings with those that want me to go through the individual evaluations of me, so just what I missed, just so you didn't get something you didn't know what was happening, so.
All right, we'll have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Just one other agenda item. Future PV, we kind of talked about that a little bit. I've heard that PV is in. But I just want to remind everybody, Paradise Valley is not part of the West Valley. And when we heard talked about the bond, it's like we said, how the West Valley is growing. How are we going to integrate PV and that whole ecosystem on the Northeast Valley? Because everybody says West Valley, Paradise Valley
Because the
is
West Valley is part of it too. It isn't just the West.
correct. And so when we say West Valley, I don't want to keep emphasizing the West Valley because Paradise Valley will vote no. They're 20% of our district.
You want the district to
Yeah, what is,
advertise?
Greater Phoenix area.
it's like, how do we start to emphasize?
So it's
Yeah.
the North Valley.
It's the
Not
North
only the
and
East.
West Valley, because Paradise Valley goes from 7th Street to Pima Road. And when you say
Yeah.
West Valley, that is not West Valley.
Gotta look for other language.
And so we really need to keep articulating how and what are those jobs in that area? They're not what we see over here.
To drop the West.
Yeah.
Just West
County. But so can we,
When I talk to Jason next week, maybe they might have some ideas about how to
That's
brand it, so.
is how do we
Because it's
articulate?
called West-MEC, but
We can't change our name, but how do we articulate that we also serve this whole
Yeah,
North Valley?
They wanna feel included, yeah, exactly.
stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
Right.
We could always just call it like a.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second, all right.
It's hard to decide your purpose.
Yeah.
This is what we were talking about before, is how big